So welcome back to Ford Friday. We're going to continue working on our 1965 Mustang rebuild project. Now the last time we ordered some parts for our 2015 and they came in. So we're going to throw those on. We're going to trim a little bit more because there's still a few spot welds I haven't got to yet. We're going to get those out and then we'll see if we can get the body to fit a little further on than we did the last time. Tell us where we need to continue to trim. Let's get started. So the parts I ordered was the rear suspension that was damaged in the accident when the 2015 hit the guardrail. So, got an upper control arm, I got a knuckle and a hub. Should be everything we need to get this tire to sit like it's supposed to be. That way, when I put the body on, I'm going to know where it should be, not where it is. So let's get it changed. So as we jack it up, you can see that left rear suspension going a little limp. Well, that's going to leave us with some issues when we try to align the body. So we're going to need it to stay in one spot. Makes this a good time to change the suspension. Besides, this is the fun part. Pull the ABS sensor out. I was expecting that to be more difficult than it was. Pull the drive axle nut off of it. And we'll try tapping the drive axle out. It's not happening. We're going to destroy the threads. So, we'll use the air chisel. I didn't have the punch bit. This will work. Let's drive it back in there. Now a little penetrating oil. Help these bolts come out. Our 1960s impact needs all the help it can get. Unbolt the brake hose. Pull our last bolt out of the control arm. Knock our drive axle the rest of the way out. And our knuckle and hub are ready to come off. I'll pull our control arm off. Still has part of the knuckle attached to it. And there's the difference. A lot of people think cast iron always breaks, but it does actually bend. So now we can throw our new control arm up there. Put the bolt back in it. Tighten it down. Now we're going to clean up the splines on our drive axle. Just a wire brush. Get all the rust out of there and blow out whatever's left. I'll throw some never sees on there. Make it easy on the next guy. We all know who the next guy is going to be. Now we can put our new knuckle up there. Slide it onto the drive axle. Put some bolts through our control arms. Take out that extra bolt from our upper control arm. Tighten everything down. Now we're going to bolt the caliper. And knock our rotor off of here. These are pretty rusty. They'll work for now. When the car is done, we'll worry about some new rotors then. Put our drive axle nut back on. Torque it to specs. Click. Now we can slide our rotor on. and our caliper. Bolt it in. Bolt in the brake hose. And tighten up the caliper bracket. Click. Slide our ABS sensor back in. Bolt it down. Our backing plate was a little bent, probably from shipping. It was rubbing on the rotor. So we'll just bend it back into place. All good. I need to throw our tire back up there. Much better. So now we got some parts to get out of our way. We're going to pull the washer bottle out. Pull the fuse box out. Just squeeze the two tabs and then slide it off the bracket. Yay, more spot welds. These are easy. I want to save the piece underneath. Not quite sure why. Probably going to end up cutting it up anyway. But in the meantime, I'm going to use the flat tip spot weld drill so I don't make any holes in the lower panel. I'll drill out all the spot welds. Ford has taken a liking recently to seam welds on their aprons and rails, so we're going to have to cut those out with a die grinder. Just cut right along the weld in the front, and then on top and the bottom. It'll come out of there. Now we can knock our panel off. Missed one. There's always one. Now onto the passenger side. Same thing. These parts are nice and easy to take out. I don't mind doing this. Pull our guard off of there so we can get to the other spots where we can't get behind. Now we can cut out our seam welds. And take it apart. Pretty simple. Now we're going to straighten out our little dent here because it's really bothering me. Like I said, I'm probably going to end up throwing this away. So now we're on to the 65. We're going to pull out the windshield molding clips. We're going to have to pull this upper cowl panel off. In order to get all the spot welds, we got to pull these clips out. Just some Phillips screws. I'm going to have to scrape out all the sealer that was in there. Drill our 1/8 inch holes. It's much nicer drilling on the 15. The spot welds are more consistent than the 1965, where they're all done by hand. The 15 was done by a robot. And part of the reason we had to pull this cowl out, not only because we have to modify it, but we need to fix some holes. This is a common rust area on Mustangs, so we're going to have to patch this eventually. It's going to make finding the welds kind of fun. Use the light at a 90-degree angle to help see them and drill out where we think they went. Now we can use our 5/16 drill bit. Drill out the rest of our welds. And start separating our panel. Now we can use the air chisel on the bottom part. We don't really care about these panels. We're going to end up throwing both of them away anyway. There's not much to destroy here. The metal is pretty thin. Got our last weld. I forgot that I zip tied the wiper transmission out of the way, so we're gonna need to break some stuff. Problem solved. I'll pull the ashtray out. I'm gonna get that thing off the dash so it's out of the way. Slide the tray out. And there's a bunch of Phillips screws. This is from back when cars actually had ashtrays. A couple wire hangers. Onto some fabrication. See if you can figure out what this is for. We'll drill a couple holes. We're going to make our holes a little bigger. We'll use the press for that. Now we got a couple nuts and bolts. We're going to weld them in there. Weld the bracket on the end. Hopefully that'll stay. Now back to our 65. We're going to cut that other panel out. Because it's an irregular shape and I need a flat panel, we're just going to put some new pieces in here. Now that the 65 is ready, we'll go back to our 2015. And pull the rear shock out, unbolt the top, unbolt the bottom, lift it out of there, and some more spot welds. Who would have guessed? Uh-oh. 10 plus years of faithful service, and was finally brutally murdered by a Mustang. Looks like I'll be visiting my Amazon store. Rest in peace, DeWalt drill. In the pile. So until I get to the store and buy a new one, I'm just have to use a cordless. We'll drill the 5/16 holes. And we can start separating the panel. So the shock mount on the outside goes over the wheel well. The wheel well is sandwiched in between these two pieces, so we need to get it out of there. We'll end up putting our 65 in there, and then sandwiching it back in there, welding it up. Now we can pull our shock off of our passenger side. Put the bolts back in so we don't lose them. The welds that go into the frame rail, we don't want to drill all the way through, so we'll use our spot weld drill. Brake hose is in the way, so knock the clip off of there. We get to this last weld. Drill our 1/8 inch holes. And now our 5/16. Now our panel's ready to come off. Outer panel's off. And just bend that wheel well out of the way. Just gonna get the air chisel down behind it. Knock it off of there. So to explain my little fabrication project here, when I'm lifting the body, I have to have the forklift coming in from the side. That's so that I can roll the chassis in and out. Now when I do that, the forks are running side to side, and so are the chains that I'm lifting the body with. So I have to put the forklift at kind of an angle, but not so much that it's going to be in the way. That leads to the chains being run on an angle across these forks, which could slide off the end of the forks, and that's not super safe. And we all know I'm all about safety on this channel. So I need a way to hold the chains that's not going to slide off the forks, and when the forks were on an angle and the chains were running over it, it wanted to twist the body to be centered. So it kind of kept me from having control over setting the body down. So I came up with my little method. So it's a sleeve so that we can mount a hook on the bottom of the forks. The bolts will keep this from sliding forward or backwards or off or anything, hopefully anywhere. So now that we have our eyelet in the end of here, we can put a little hook on it. I'm going to use this pin so that I can adjust the height of the hook if I want, or change it completely if I want a different kind. So now my chain will run through here. This gives me a lot more movement, and it's not wanting to pull the body in any certain direction. Our original method was fine when we were just test fitting it, but as our test fitting gets closer and our cuts get more precise, I need more control, and I don't need the forks forcing the body in a direction I don't want it to go. So hopefully this will give us the control we need. Let's see how it works. So there's your answer to my fabrication project. Did you guess right? There's probably a million other methods. This one is pretty simple. Took only a few minutes to make, so I went with it. Seems to work pretty good. Body goes up nice and level. Doesn't want to twist. So we'll lift the front end all the way up. Now we can lift the back end up. Get our non-Harbor Freight jack stands out of the way. And we'll roll our 15 underneath. Let the body down a little bit. Move the back end over. It's easier to move the car at this point than it is the chassis. We'll set the front end down. And I'll set the back end down as far as it'll go. Not much further than last time. We're going to ponder what we got to do. You guys want to see what I'm looking at? Here you go. So there's our frame rail. Now we know where we need to cut. You can see how much it overlaps. We got to take about that much out. Or do we? Our rear wheels are almost exactly the same. So that crease in the floor is almost where we need to cut to. And actually we have to leave a little extra.
We do need to bend it up at a 90-degree angle, so we're going to need a flange. But we want our bend to be where that crease is, at least for now. Now in order to get our body to fit a little further on, we need to go forward. And we need to cut out around this rail, or it'll slide underneath the floor. Now we know what we need to do. Let's get the body back off of here. So we'll lift it up, roll it forward at the same time. Takes 2 hands and a foot, since I'm by myself. Afternoon crew is flipping tires somewhere. Rolls much easier with that new suspension. Now we'll set the body back down on our jack stands. Again, requiring 2 hands and a foot. Set the back half down. Hopefully that'll stay.
So the next step is to start narrowing our floor to fit inside of our frame rails here. Unfortunately, we have a new step. We got some holes in the bottom of our rail here. So we're gonna have to fix that. And there's a few ways we can do it. First way, we can just patch it and cut a section out and replace it. That's probably the worst way. The next best way would be to replace this entire frame rail, front to back. They make reproductions, I can put it in. The option I think I'm going to go with is to replace it with a thicker gauge steel that's thinner in width and taller in height. It'll actually be a little bit heavier, but my motor's pushing 400 horsepower, and anything over 200 just makes the tire spin faster. It's only gonna have street tires on it, so I think I can handle the extra weight. Might even keep the car on the ground. It's not like I'm building a drag car, because if I was, it wouldn't be a Mustang convertible. So once we narrow this, our channel will butt up against the front, like the original did. Follow all along here, and somewhere back here. Now, I'll put another piece up here to bring up the height. That'll allow me to put a piece through here, not made of wood, that will tie this frame rail to that frame rail on the other side. Give me some strength side to side. Now when I get up here, this is where my roll bar is going to start. I did say I wanted to put a roll bar on, and it's not just for rolling over. Come on, this is going to be a narrow car with wide tires. This will be the most stable Mustang they ever built. That I ever built. That anybody ever built. So the roll bar is really more for strength than it is for rollover safety. So like this video if you found it interesting. Share it if you think somebody else might. Subscribe to see the rest of this build or whatever else I'm working on. As always, thanks for watching. And I'll see you soon. There's a pretty good section here. Really? Thunder this time? But there were no trains?